Ready? Hello? On है ना? ठीक. Welcome back. So we'll be starting again with the important current affairs of the week for the second week of July 2021. And for today we have very important topics at hand. The first of them is Ministry of Cooperation has been formed. Now what is the aim of forming a Ministry of Cooperation? Ministry of Cooperation का जो main aim है, that is improving the cooperative society sector in India. ठीक है, development of the cooperative society इस पूरे sector का development. Now very important thing is कि cooperatives are not under the union list. Still the union government has formed a cooperative ministry, a ministry for cooperative societies. Now there are certain political certain developmental goals as well. Now we will be trying to analyze as to what are the constitutional provisions, what are the statutory provisions, how the evolution of cooperative societies in India has taken place, and what is the current status of cooperative societies in India, and how it is going to help in the achieving of the $5 ट्रिलियन का जो गोल अपने इंडिया के लिए सेट किया है उसको अचीव करने के लिए कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज का क्या रोल है एंड हाउ इज दिस मिनिस्ट्री गोइंग टू हेल्प अस विद दैट. ठीक है, तो विल बी स्टार्टिंग दिस लेक्चर विद मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कोऑपरेशन. ठीक है, नाउ व्हाई इन न्यूज़? बिकॉज यूनियन गवर्नमेंट हैज फॉर्म्ड अ मिनिस्ट्री फॉर डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी सेक्टर या कोऑपरेटिव सेक्टर के डेवलपमेंट के लिए मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कोऑपरेशन हैज बीन फॉर्म्ड. Mr. Amit Shah has been made the in charge minister for the same ministry. Okay. Although the cooperatives are under the state list, entry 32 of the state list under the 7th schedule. 7th schedule में क्या है? Distribution of powers between state, center, and of course the concurrent list. And that means the overlapping domain of state and center. Now यहाँ पे एक बहुत important confusion that students usually encounter. And even I have seen that students usually face difficulty in making a difference between division of power and separation of power. Okay. Now division of power is different from separation of power in the sense that separation of power is between the organs of the government. Okay. And organs of the government are executive, legislature, judiciary. Okay. That the classification or allotment of the powers to the respective genres of the government, the units of governance is called separation of powers. Okay. In India, separation of powers is not very strict. Okay. Like in US, the separation of powers is very strict. Okay. President in US, president is the executive authority, topmost executive authority, and legislature is a different authority. Okay. But in India, with the system of Westminster parliamentary system, where the ministers or the executives are present within the parliament. Okay, what happens in USA is president is the executive, president gets elected, and then he can nominate any member as his minister or secretary. Okay, as we call ministers in India, secretaries are called in US. Okay, now secretary of state, secretary of finance affairs. Okay, these are the kind of ministers in USA, and they are appointed by president himself. Okay, they need not necessarily be the member of the Congress or the Senate. Okay, they should not be the member of Congress or Senate. This is the level of separation of powers in USA. But in India, we follow the Westminster system of parliamentary governance, in which the executive is within the parliament. Like all the ministers, the prime minister, the executive. Okay, the temporary executive, of course, the permanent executive is civil services and the government officers, of course. But in Indian system or the Westminster parliamentary system of governance, the executive, like in England and in India also, okay, the executive is responsible to the parliament. बट इन यूएसए एग्जीक्यूटिव इज नॉट रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू द पार्लियामेंट. वहां पे रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी का जो कंसेप्ट है दैट इज नॉट प्रेजेंट इन द यूएस system of governance. But in Indian system of governance there has been the responsibility in the sense कि they will have to be accountable to the parliament, and if they fail to prove their accountability, or if they fail to prove their confidence in the house of Lok Sabha primarily and parliament as a whole, then they will have to resign. But in USA there is no such system where president has to prove his majority in the Senate or the Congress. Okay, that was a different thing, but that is called separation of power. Separation of power is between the units of governance. Units of governance are executive, legislature and judiciary. In India the separation of power exists, but it is not as rigid as in US. Okay, similarly there is division of powers. अब division of powers क्या है? Division of powers is between the federal units of the governance. अब federal units कौन सी हैं? States, center and of course the local level governance, जो कि municipalities and पंचायत. ठीक है, तो अब इन तीनों यूनिट्स ऑफ गवर्नेंस के बीच में जो डिवीजन ऑफ या एलोकेशन ऑफ पावर है, दैट इज कॉल्ड डिवीजन ऑफ पावर्स, नॉट सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर. दिस शुड बी वेरी क्लियर इन योर माइंड. ठीक है, तो दैट सेपरेशन ऑफ दैट डिवीजन ऑफ पावर बेसिकली इज द एलोकेशन ऑफ रिस्पेक्टिव स्फेयर्स ऑफ पावर. कि अ सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कैन लेजिस्लेट or the executive authority of central government exists into such areas. ठीक है, the executive authority and the legislative authority of the state extends to such areas. ठीक है, that is called the division of the powers. Okay, the division of power and separation of power are two different things that should be clearly borne in the mind. Now you can see that यहाँ पे जो federal system of governance when we talk about India, ठीक है, it is not completely federal. ठीक है, because India is not a unit where the states are coming to form a union. It is not like that. States are not coming to form the union, but a union has been formed consisting of all the states. ठीक है, the union is indestructible, but it has been formed not through an arrangement or not through a cooperation between the states as in USA. It has been formed rather through a union of all the constituent states. ठीक है, it is not that the arrangement is not of cooperative nature in the sense that the states did not come voluntarily to form a union. The union was formed by the constitution itself. The constitution imposed a union upon all the states, and that is why the union is non-destructible in India. ठीक है, and hence India has only single citizenship का concept. ठीक है, but in USA you will have to acquire two citizenships, first of the USA and the second of the state you are living in. Okay, तो यहाँ पे आपको थोड़ा समझ में आ गया कि what is the concept of federal governance in India. ठीक है, division of powers भी आ गया, separation of powers भी आ गया, and what is the concept of citizenship in the sense कि the units of the state or the units of the Union of India are not destructible because they were not formed through the cooperation of the constituent units, but a union was formed by the constitution from the top. It was not a bottom up federation, it was top down federation. Okay, now see, but India's federation is a quasi federal system. Now quasi federal, why we say quasi federal? Because the system of federation in India is highly biased or highly tilted towards the unitary features. Okay, like the provision of emergency. In the emergency, the country can be reduced to unitary system of government. ठीक है, even in the although the states and center have been allocated certain domains of powers, but still center can encroach into the domains of state, but state cannot encroach into the domain of center. Okay, that is the kind of federation that we live in. Okay, although the cooperatives are under, okay, now we observe that the development of cooperative sectors is within the ministry, is within the state list. ठीक है, 7th schedule में, ठीक है, 7th schedule state list. Okay, entry 32. Development of cooperative societies is mentioned under the state list of 7th schedule under entry 32. Now entry 32 mentions that the state will have the executive and the administrative and the legislative powers for the development of the cooperative sectors in India. Okay, but the law is not very clear because there already exists a multi-state cooperative societies act that has been enacted by the central government. ठीक है कि although state list says that कि जो cooperative sector का development है that will be the responsibility of states, ठीक है, but what if a cooperative is found that expands into more than one state? In that case, that cooperative will have to register itself with the central government under the multi-state cooperative societies act 1912, ठीक है, sorry 2002, ठीक है, under that act. Now, what is a cooperative? First of all, we need to understand what is a cooperative. A cooperative society is a voluntary formation, ठीक है, voluntary organization of people who should be at least 18-year-old. ठीक है, the first criteria is that they should be 18 years of age. They should have crossed the 18 years of age. That is, they should be able, they should be legally entitled to enter into any commercial contract. Okay, if one is not above 18 years old, he is not eligible to enter into any commercial contract. That is why he should be 18 years of more than 18 years of age. Moreover, that voluntary organization should consist of at least 10 members. Okay? And those members should belong to the same tribe or the same village or the same area or the same town. Okay, this is kind of criteria that has been mentioned in the act. And it can be formed for credit. What are credit? Credit मतलब loan. Cooperative societies का evolution law के through नहीं हुआ. There were already cooperative societies in India. ठीक है, like guilds were operating in ancient India. ठीक है, what guilds did was they extended credit also, and the guilds were a kind of cooperative in the sense that it was a voluntary organization of members of certain kind of work. ठीक है, like if there is a guild of ironsmiths, so that guild will consist of the members who are ironsmiths. ठीक है, and they will extend cooperation amongst themselves to for the benefit of everyone. ठीक है, तो cooperative society works on the phenomenon of win-win situation for everyone. Okay, it can be formed for credit, production and distribution. Now, what is production and distribution? Production cooperatives are basically those. Okay, very important point to note here is that production cooperatives या इसको कहते हैं producer cooperatives. Okay, producer cooperatives. Okay, now producer cooperatives have been mentioned in Companies Act 1956. They have been mentioned in Companies Act 1956. Producer cooperatives are voluntary formations of those people like some FPO, farm producer organization. ठीक है, जहां पे बहुत सारे फार्मर्स एक साथ आके दे फॉर्म अ कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी सो दैट दे कैन हेल्प ईच अदर एंड दे कैन पूल इन द रिसोर्सेज. ठीक है, लाइक सबके पास ट्रैक्टर नहीं है, सबके पास इरिगेशन की फैसिलिटीज नहीं है, बट एवरी पर्सन हैज सम काइंड ऑफ थिंग दैट कैन बी शेयर्ड अलोंग द कम्युनिटी. ठीक है, तो एक एरिया के फार्मर्स बहुत सारे आके अपने अपने आसपास के दे फॉर्म अ कोऑपरेटिव. ठीक है, they might be, that cooperative might be based on the land pooling, might be based on the other resource kind of pooling, but that production, that cooperative will be called a producer cooperative. Okay, या producer production based cooperative society. Similarly, distribution based cooperative society can also be formed, and the biggest example of distribution based cooperative society is Amul. Okay, what Amul does is Amul collects the milk from all the farmers in the area and it distributes to the consumers. ठीक है, and the farmers themselves are the members of the Amul cooperative. ठीक है, तो there can be three kind of major cooperatives. ठीक है, even a production में भी horticulture cooperative can be formed, farming cooperative can be formed. ठीक है, sericulture cooperative can be formed, but major classification includes of credit, production and distribution. ठीक है, that is the classification that we are interested in. ठीक है, fine. Now we'll be analyzing as the evolution of cooperative societies in India. ठीक है, the first okay, cooperative societies existed always, ठीक है. Cooperative societies have been there since ever in India, ठीक है. Okay. Cooperative societies were there forever, ठीक है. Like most of the cooperative societies were based on credit cooperation. That is, a group of people, ठीक है, they gathered themselves and formed a cooperative based on the extension of credit to each other, to the members, ठीक है. Like a famous cooperative is chit fund. Chit fund is a cooperative where people extend credit to each other, ठीक है. So similarly, during the British era in 1901, Edward Law Committee was formed by Lord Curzon, ठीक है. He formed this committee to study the existing credit cooperative societies in India, and this committee recommended the legal recognition of the credit societies in India. Okay, the first committee that was formed for the cooperative societies in India is Edward Law Committee. That is very important for the prelims point of view. Now 1904 and 1942, these two years are important. Why? Cooperative Societies Bill was passed in 1904. This bill was based on the recommendations of Edward Law Committee that was formed under Lord Curzon. Now very important thing is कि Lord Curzon की lordship में या viceroyship में the first cooperative bill was passed. Okay, like the first who is called the liberator of the press, ठीक है, the Charles Metcalfe, ठीक है. Similarly for local self governance, Lord Ripon, ठीक है. Similarly for cooperative societies, Lord Curzon is attributed. Fine. This is an important fact from both the history and the current affairs. Why current affairs? Because the whole ministry has been announced, and whenever such things happen, UPSC usually asks about the history of that, yeah, developmental history of that. ठीक है. फिर 1942 में मल्टी स्टेट्स कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज एक्ट वाज पास्ड. 1942 स्टिल इंडिपेंडेंट इंडिया नहीं था. मल्टी यूनिट कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज एक्ट. मल्टी यूनिट कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज एक्ट मतलब अगर एक कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी, यूजुअली अ कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी इज बेस्ड इन अ जियोग्राफिकली स्मॉलर एरिया, ठीक है, बट इफ द कैपेसिटी ऑफ दैट कोऑपरेटिव टू cater to the larger population generates या develops, then it might expand itself to the larger geographical spread. In that case, to control such organizations, multi-unit cooperative societies act was passed in 1942. Now 1948 में multi-state cooperative societies bill passed which repealed the 1942 act. 1942 में multi-unit cooperative societies थी. यहाँ पे था 1984 में because India became independent and states were reorganized, ठीक है. तो मल्टी स्टेट कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज बिल वाज पास्ड इन 1984 विच रिपील्ड द एक्ट ऑफ 1942. ओके, उसके बाद क्या हुआ? 1990 में ब्रह्म प्रकाश कमिटी वाज फॉर्म्ड अगेन टू लुक इनटू द वर्किंग ऑफ द होल कोऑपरेटिव मूवमेंट इन इंडिया, ठीक है. एंड 1991 में द मॉडल कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज एक्ट वाज पास्ड. नाउ व्हाई मॉडल कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज एक्ट? ठीक है, जब भी आप पढ़ते हो मॉडल एक्ट, like model APMC act was passed in 2000, ठीक है. तो that why 2003, ठीक है. model cooperative societies act was model APMC act was passed in 2003. Similarly model cooperative societies act, model में मतलब a reference to the states, because this act was passed by the central government but it was voluntary. It was a model for other states to adopt. It was not a legal obligation for the states to follow this act. Okay, where the Model Cooperative Societies Act was passed in 1991, but the states were not obliged to follow the recommendations or the provisions of this act. Why? Because this was a model act. Okay, model act means it was a recommendatory act कि states को क्या provisions follow करने चाहिए to form a cooperative societies act. When a central government forms a model act, it is actually trying to persuade the state governments to form their own acts based on the similar kind of act. 2002 में Multi State Cooperative Societies Act 2002 was passed. Again, it replaced the 1984 Act. 1984 में जो Act Multi State Cooperative Societies Act पास हुआ था, changes were brought in with the and to make the act relevant to the contemporary times, it was again 1984 act was also repealed. Now 2002 में मल्टी स्टेट्स कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज एक्ट वाज पास्ड एंड दिस इज द लॉ दैट वी हैव टुडे. ठीक है, मतलब अगर कोई कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी एक्सटेंड होती है बियॉन्ड द बॉर्डर्स ऑफ वन स्टेट, देन इट विल हैव टू रजिस्टर विद द यूनियन गवर्नमेंट. ठीक है, ऑल्दो द एंट्री और द सब्जेक्ट ऑफ द कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटीज लाइज विद इन द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स. ठीक है, फिर 2001 में a very major change was brought through the 97th Constitutional Amendment Act 2011. The cooperative societies were granted the constitutional status. ठीक है, and Article 243ZH to Article 243ZT was inserted into the Constitution. These provisions, these articles 243ZH to 243ZT deal with the kind of constitutional provisions that are provided for cooperative societies. Okay, so this is the how cooperative societies evolved in India. ठीक है, although बीच में बहुत सारी चीजें हुई, but I have skipped them. These are the important things for our exam perspective. Okay, now what is the present constitutional status? 2011 में 97th Constitutional Amendment Act आया. ठीक है, and it made some changes into the Indian cooperatives का जो होल पिक्चर था, उस पिक्चर में कुछ चेंजेस किए. द फर्स्ट वन वाज आर्टिकल 19(1)(c) was inserted. Now article 19(1)(c), article 19 is a fundamental right. That means the right of formation of a cooperative societies in India is now a fundamental right. Okay, the right of formation of cooperative societies in India is a fundamental right. Again, article 43B was also inserted. ठीक है, आर्टिकल 43 is a DPSP. आर्टिकल 43B is also a DPSP. That implies कि now the government was mandated, ठीक है, by the constitution to help into the promotion development of what cooperative societies in the India. ये voluntary formation, democratic control and what autonomous functioning. These three are the keywords that define the whole constitution, the whole constitutional scenario of what cooperative societies in India. Understood? Now article 43B, state shall promote the voluntary formation. The formation should be voluntary. The very important thing about cooperative societies is that they are voluntary in nature. Okay, okay, they are voluntary in nature. ठीक है, मतलब government is not forcing someone to come into a cooperation and form a cooperative society. They are voluntary in nature. ठीक है, the second important thing is they need to be autonomous. ठीक है, and the third one is their control should be democratic. अब democratic control के बारे में क्यों बात हो रही है? Because cooperative societies is a society that is based on the membership of the general public. Okay, the general people may get together to form a cooperative society. अब उस cooperative society के members, every person that is a part of that cooperative society will be the member of that cooperative society. Now for the governance, for maintaining the transparency in the governance, because जो लोगों का पैसा has been involved in that. Okay, and people have contributed to make some earning out of it. ठीक है, to make the governance transparent, it should be autonomous. ठीक है, the government interference should be minimized and democratic control. It should be the governance of the cooperative society should be democratic. So one important thing that we observe here is कि it is similar to the 73rd and 74th amendments which provided for the democratic governance at the local level. ठीक है, similarly cooperative societies का भी democratic governance, autonomous functioning and voluntary formation are the three keywords that define the whole cooperative society का जो picture है इंडिया में उसको define करता है. Understood? Now 97th Constitutional Amendment Act also added Part 9B. Part 9B contains all those articles, Article 243ZT to Article 243ZT. ठीक है, ZH है यहाँ पे to 243ZT dealing in the cooperatives. Now very important point, cooperative societies are under the list of 7th schedule, state list of the 7th schedule. ठीक है, मतलब cooperative societies are under the state control. However, multi-state cooperative societies are under the control of the Union Government of India. Okay. That is the present constitutional status of cooperative societies in India. ठीक है? Okay. That was all about the cooperative societies, the development of cooperative societies in India, and how the cooperative societies, this cooperative societies ministry is going to be a help in the development of this whole sector. Okay. The topic at hand is new global framework released by the United Nations Convention on Biodiversity. तो दो तीन चीजें हम यहाँ पे पढ़ेंगे जो कि बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, प्रीलिम्स के एस्पेक्ट से. ठीक है, तो वील बी फोकसिंग ऑन व्हाट इज यूनाइटेड नेशन कन्वेंशन ऑन बायोडाइवर्सिटी. इट इज अ कन्वेंशन, इज इट अ ट्रीटी, इज इट एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. ठीक है, तो वील बी रीडिंग दैट. तो यूएनसीबीडी इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इज इंडिया पार्टी ऑफ इट? What is the treaty or the convention legally binding? Okay, we'll be dealing with all that. Why is this in news? Because United Nations Convention on Biodiversity Secretariat has released a new global framework for managing the nature through 2030. ठीक है, 2010 में 2010 में ओके एक फ्रेमवर्क यूनाइटेड नेशंस कन्वेंशन ऑन बायोडाइवर्सिटी ने एक्सेप्ट किया था. उस फ्रेमवर्क का मेन थीम था लिविंग इन हार्मनी. ठीक है, इन हार्मनी विद नेचर. ठीक है, this was the theme of this the framework that was adopted in 2010 for 1 decade. ठीक है, मतलब 2010 में एक फ्रेमवर्क एक्सेप्ट किया या फ्रेमवर्क डिजाइन किया जिसको सारी पार्टीज जो कि यूनाइटेड नेशन कन्वेंशन ऑन बायोडाइवर्सिटी की पार्टीज हैं, 196 मेंबर्स हैं इस ट्रीटी में या इस कन्वेंशन में, तो इवन इंडिया इज अ मेंबर. ठीक है, तो 2010 में एक कन्वेंशन या एक फ्रेमवर्क का मीनिंग क्या होता है? फ्रेमवर्क मीन्स द आउटलाइन ऑफ आवर विजन या आउटलाइन ऑफ आवर स्ट्रैटेजी या एक्शन प्लान. ठीक है, that frame was adopted in 2010. It was for 1 decade till 2020. Now the 2020 has crossed, and what was the theme of that framework? Living in nature with harmony. मतलब humans and nature in harmony. That was the theme. There was a framework. उस framework में बहुत सारे चीजें थी, targets थे, specified goals थे, strategies थी, tools and techniques थे. So as to how are we going to manage our nature, and how as to how we are going to use the biological resources to the benefit of the humankind. At the same time, how are we going to sustainably develop it? ठीक है, as to our use should not exploit the nature so that it makes the whole system unsustainable. ठीक है, फिर 2015 में सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स आ गए. ठीक है, उसके बाद now the decade has passed and after 2020 we need another framework for another decade. तो ये फ्रेमवर्क जो है अभी जो नया वाला फ्रेमवर्क आया है, that is a framework for this decade 2021 to 2030. Okay, this is the simple understanding of the whole. ये फ्रेमवर्क है क्या and why has it been released? It is a draft proposal. ठीक है, which aims to align the framework of biodiversity convention. ठीक है, now United Nations Convention on Biodiversity, it is a convention. ठीक है, although it is a legally binding treaty. ठीक है, it is a treaty that is legally binding. Legally binding मतलब all the parties are legally bound to accept the provisions once they have ratified the treaty. ठीक है, India also ratified this treaty, and in the pursuance of that ratification, India formed a National Biodiversity Authority (NBA) that is headquartered in Chennai. Okay, and a Biodiversity Act 2002 was passed. ठीक है, और 2003 में National Biodiversity Authority was formed. So we will be seeing as to how what is the framework and what are the details of that framework, and how are we going to manage our how are we going to manage the resources that we are exploiting from nature, and so that the sustainable development of these resources is maintained. ठीक है. ठीक है, तो ये लोगो है यूनाइटेड नेशंस कन्वेंशन ऑन बायोडाइवर्सिटी का. ठीक है, तो व्हाट इज कन्वेंशन ऑन बायोडाइवर्सिटी? इट इज अ लीगली बाइंडिंग ट्रीटी अंडर यूएनईपी, यूनाइटेड नेशंस एनवायरमेंट प्रोटोकॉल. ठीक है, सॉरी नॉट प्रोटोकॉल बट प्रोग्राम, यूनाइटेड नेशंस एनवायरमेंट प्रोग्राम के अंदर में. यूएनईपी इज अ होल अम्ब्रेला प्रोग्राम. ठीक है, इसमें बहुत सारी ट्रीटीज, कन्वेंशन, प्रोटोकॉल्स हैं. अब उनमें से एक ट्रीटी है कन्वेंशन ऑन बायोडाइवर्सिटी. ठीक है, that treaty is legally binding on all the members that sign the treaty. ठीक है, यूएनईपी का मेंबर होना is not the only prerequisite. ठीक है, a country can be a member of UNEP but still it cannot sign the convention on biodiversity, then it will be not obliged to follow the rules that are set under the convention on biodiversity. ठीक है, but 196 members, ठीक है, 196 members have signed and signed this treaty and they are members of this treaty. ठीक है, 150 members have ratified. ठीक है, India is one of them. ठीक है, अगर एक किसी भी ट्रीटी के बारे में, ठीक है, like there are 196 members, तो जरूरी नहीं है कि 196 members उसको रेटिफाई करें. ठीक, रेटिफाई करने का मीनिंग होता है, साइन करने का मीनिंग होता है यस आई एम विलिंग टू गेट इनटू द प्रोविजंस ऑफ दिस ट्रीटी. But when I ratify the treaty, that means I am willing to take the legal obligation and I am going to implement this treaty. ठीक है, तो हर ट्रीटी में एक सर्टेन परसेंटेज होती है, लाइक 40%, 50%, है ना, तो दैट विल बी डिसाइडेड एज पर द ट्रीटी. तो एक सर्टेन परसेंटेज ऑफ अगर मेंबर साइन कर देते हैं या रेटिफाई कर देते हैं उस ट्रीटी को, तो दैट ट्रीटी कम्स इनटू फोर्स वेदर द अदर मेंबर्स रेटिफाई और नॉट. ओके, तो 40 to 50%. तो फॉर दिस ट्रीटी 150 आउट ऑफ 196 मेंबर्स हैव रेटिफाइड इट. ठीक है, इवन इंडिया. इसका अब सेक्रेटरीट कहाँ पे है? मॉन्ट्रियल. मॉन्ट्रियल इज इन कनाडा. ठीक है, मॉन्ट्रियल प्रोटोकॉल, यहाँ पे मॉन्ट्रियल से एक इंपॉर्टेंट रिवीजन हो सकता है. मॉन्ट्रियल प्रोटोकॉल इज रिलेटेड टू ओजोन डिप्लीटिंग सब्सटेंसेस. ओके, साइंड इन 1992. अब 1992 में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट कन्वेंशन हुआ था या समिट हुई थी, दैट इज कॉल्ड रियो अर्थ समिट. ठीक है, Rio Earth Summit. Rio Earth Summit was held in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Okay, and that was also called Earth Summit because major Agenda 21 was signed in this Agenda 21. Agenda 21 is nothing but 21 agendas for the sustainable development of the planet. ठीक है, उसके बाद ही इवोल्यूशन ऑफ ये सारी जो ट्रीटीज हो ना वो स्टार्ट हो गए. लाइक क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल आ गया इमिशंस को कंट्रोल करने के लिए, कन्वेंशन ऑन बायोडाइवर्सिटी आ गई बायोडाइवर्सिटी के लॉस को कंट्रोल करने के लिए. ठीक है, तो फ्रॉम 1992 द होल सिनेरियो और द होल सिस्टम ऑफ एनवायरमेंटल एक्टिविज्म चेंज्ड ड्रास्टिकली. ठीक है, साइंड इन 1992 एंड केम इनटू फोर्स इन 1993. ठीक है, India has also ratified the convention. It has 196 members. In the pursuance of the convention, India has implemented the domestic act, that is Biodiversity Act 2002, and in the pursuance of this act, NBA, National Biodiversity Authority, was also formed in 2003. It was formed in 2003. The headquartered in Chennai. ठीक है, अब what is biodiversity? ठीक है, it's very important to understand कि what is biodiversity. ठीक है, and why do we need to conserve our biodiversity. ठीक है, तो बायोडाइवर्सिटी का मीनिंग सिंपल है. ठीक है, डाइवर्सिटी मीन्स मल्टीप्लिसिटी या प्लूरलिटी ऑफ प्रेजेंस ऑफ डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ स्पीशीज, दैट इज कॉल्ड बायोडाइवर्सिटी. अब डाइवर्सिटी भी कई प्रकार की हो सकती है. ठीक है, द फर्स्ट वन इज कि लाइक डाइवर्सिटी कैसी है, ह्यूमंस प्रेजेंट है, एनिमल्स हैं, ठीक है, फिर प्लांट्स, इंसेक्ट्स, बर्ड्स. तो यहाँ पे देयर इज अ डाइवर्सिटी. ठीक है, विद इन ह्यूमंस डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ ह्यूमंस. ठीक है, डिफरेंट रेसेस. ठीक है, वाइट, ब्राउन. ठीक है, their diversity is high. If diversity is high, तो why we say that there should be higher diversity? Why do we focus on diversity? दो important चीजें हैं, ठीक है? The first one is कि why do we focus on diversity as such? कि what is the role of diversity? ठीक है? The first one is it provides us with the gene pool, ठीक है? The first one is that it provides us with the gene pool. अब ये gene pool क्या है? जितने ज़्यादा स्पीशीज होंगी उतने ज़्यादा जेनेटिक म्यूटेशंस की प्रोबेबिलिटी होगी, ठीक है? अगर इन ब्रीडिंग बहुत ज़्यादा होने लगती है किसी भी एनिमल्स या किसी भी स्पीशीज में, इन ब्रीडिंग बहुत ज़्यादा होने लगती है तो जीन पूल में चेंजेस बहुत कम होते हैं एंड दैट लीड्स टू डिजीजेज एंड एवरीथिंग, ठीक है? तो जो हमारा सर्वाइवल रेट है दैट इज अ गुड फंक्शन ऑफ जीन पूल, द डाइवर्सिटी ऑफ द जीन पूल या द हाउ मच आवर जेनेटिक पूल इज एनरिच्ड, ठीक है? तो हमारा एग्जिस्टेंस डिपेंड्स अपॉन आवर जीन पूल, ठीक है? द सेकेंड वन इज इकोसिस्टम सर्विसेज, ठीक है? इकोसिस्टम सर्विसेज, ठीक है? Like there are many plants and herbs that are present in the forests. If we clear the forest for agriculture, these herbs might be lost forever. And these are the herbs that are used in the medicinal preparation, ठीक है? तो that is a kind of ecosystem service, ठीक है? तो ये तो बेसिक चीजें हो गई कि why we need diversity, ठीक है? If diversity is compromised, the whole ecosystem gets compromised, ठीक है? Now the three pillars of convention of biodiversity are, the first one is conservation of biological diversity. As I said कि the biological diversity should be conserved and also promoted, ठीक है? The second one is fair and equitable sharing of the benefits of the genetic arising from the use of genetic resources. This is a very important consideration under this convention, ठीक है? We'll be understanding this. This is a very important consideration, okay? And the third one is sustainable use of the components of the biodiversity. The first one is conservation of biodiversity, the second one is sustainable use of biodiversity, and the third one is fair and equitable sharing, ठीक है? तो conservation of biodiversity means simply conserving the flora and the fauna, okay? The second one is कि sustainable use, if we are using them to our benefit, that use should be not such that it pushes them into the extinction, okay? That should be sustainable. The third very important point is fair and equitable sharing, ठीक है? It is also called access and benefit sharing, ठीक है? या access and benefit sharing, ठीक है? Now what is access and benefit sharing? We need to understand this. This is a very important concept in the biodiversity. For example, this is a forest, ठीक है? This is a forest, okay? These are the forest communities living in the forest. These people are dependent on the forest for their livelihood, ठीक है? These people are dependent on the forest for their livelihood, and they have also been conserving the forest around them, ठीक है? अब if some company comes, ठीक है? For example, XYZ corporation, if this company goes to exploit these forest resources, ठीक है? And what happens is कि this will destroy the livelihood of these people, ठीक है? That will of course destroy the biodiversity of the region, है ना? And at the same time, the livelihood of the people who are dependent on the forest will also get destroyed. What access and benefit sharing provides is, the first term is access, okay? Access means अब इस तरीके के कॉन्फ्लिक्ट से बचने के लिए, ठीक है, एक्सेस एंड बेनिफिट शेयरिंग का कॉन्सेप्ट प्रोवाइडेड है इन द कन्वेंशन ऑफ बायोडाइवर्सिटी. नाउ एक्सेस मीन्स प्रोवाइडिंग एक्सेस टू द बायोडाइवर्सिटी रिसोर्स, ठीक है? प्रोवाइडिंग एक्सेस टू XYZ कॉर्पोरेशन टू द बायोडाइवर्सिटी रिसोर्स विद इन दिस फॉरेस्टेड एरिया और एनी प्लेस जहाँ की भी बायोडाइवर्सिटी है, उनको जो इसको कॉमर्शियली एक्सप्लॉइट कर सकते हैं लोग, उनको एक्सेस प्रोवाइड करना, ठीक है? तो दैट विल बी ग्रांटेड टू दीज पीपल, ठीक है? बट द सेकेंड पार्ट इज, द फर्स्ट वन इज प्रोवाइडिंग एक्सेस टू द पीपल हु कैन कॉमर्शियली एक्सप्लॉइट द the resource of the biodiversity. Okay. The second one is, this company once gets access to this biodiversity resource, it will make pharmaceutical and all, sell to people and earn money. Now when the company earns money, it is also obliged to share a part of that money with these people. That is called benefit sharing. The first is provision of access, the second is provision of benefit sharing. Access, these people will provide XYZ corporation with the access to the biodiversity resource, and they will make sure that this company does not exploit these resources unsustainably. Okay. The second point is कि once the access has been provided, okay, because biodiversity resource is a global common, okay, whatever resources, okay, whatever biodiversity resources are, they are common to everyone. Okay, a jungle is common to everyone. No one owns the jungle. Any resource that is present within the jungle is a common resource to the all humanity. Understood? In that sense, if these people are not able to commercially exploit this, and these people have the technology, the requisite competence to commercially exploit the resource of the biodiversity, they should be allowed to exploit it on this condition that they are going to share a part of that, the benefit arising from the access to the biodiversity resource, to the people who are at least most affected by that access. Okay. तो अब इस चीज को एक्सेस एंड बेनिफिट शेयरिंग को प्रमोट करने के लिए ही एक इंटरमीडियरी है नेशनल बायोडाइवर्सिटी अथॉरिटी. नेशनल बायोडाइवर्सिटी अथॉरिटी. अब नेशनल बायोडाइवर्सिटी अथॉरिटी का क्या काम है? इट फैसिलिटेट्स, ठीक है, इट फैसिलिटेट्स the applications for access to the biodiversity resources and also provides for the benefit sharing to the people affected. Okay, that means, for example, if someone, some company, some medicine making company wants to access some jungle resources, they will have to make an application to NBA. NBA will certify it. NBA will consult with these people, okay, and after the consultation of Gram Panchayat, they will provide the access to that resources to that company, and then the company will be providing a portion of their sales to these people through NBA. This is called access and benefit sharing. This is the most important provision of the Convention on Biodiversity. Okay, this is the most important provision on the Convention of Biodiversity. Okay, so I hope you understood this. Now we are talking about the framework that has been proposed. Abhi tak to we are talking about what is convention, what is this convention about, what are the features of the convention of the biodiversity, and what is the India's role, what are the main points of convention of biodiversity like access and benefit sharing. Now we will be talking about the proposed framework. What is the proposed framework? The proposed framework has three basic points. Okay? The first one is reducing threats to biodiversity. Okay? The second is sustainable use. The third one is tools and solutions. The first one is reducing threats to biodiversity. What should be our aim? Our aim should be to reduce the threats that the biodiversity faces. The second one is the progression over that, as to first we have reduced the threats, now how are we going to sustainably use the biodiversity resource? Okay? And the third one is what are the tools and techniques to do that. This is a progressive steps for the actions that have been proposed under the framework. The first one is reducing threats to biodiversity. Now for prelims point of view, this is an important point. This whole column is important. Why? Because question ऐसे आ सकता है, which of the following is a major threat to the biodiversity loss? ठीक है? Land use change, climate change, pollution, overexploitation, and invasive species. Now invasive species are very important. ठीक है? We have all ठीक है? Invasive species are very important. In one of my previous lectures, I talked about Lantana camara. That is an invasive ornamental flower that came to India, ठीक है? And now it is found everywhere. तो सबसे important जो biodiversity loss के लिए सबसे important factor है, the first one is land use and sea use change. The second one is habitat destruction, ठीक है? Habitat destruction. Okay. Habitat destruction basically amounts from land या sea use change. ठीक है. अब हैबिटेट डिस्ट्रक्शन का एग्जांपल क्या है? डिस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ द रेन फॉरेस्ट फॉर प्लांटेशन ऑफ पाम ट्रीज. ठीक है. India is the largest importer of palm oil in India. It is the largest consumer of palm oil. ठीक है. And to serve India's palm oil needs, the rainforests in Indonesia and Malaysia have been wiped off. ठीक है. तो इन रेन फॉरेस्ट में बहुत हाई बायोडाइवर्सिटी थी that has been wiped off to plant palm trees. ठीक है. Now that amounts to land use change because the land was earlier used as a forest. Now it is used for plantation. So of course land use change basically amounts to habitat destruction. ठीक है. The second one is invasive species. The invasion of species that is not native to that particular ecosystem will destroy because it will have no competitor in that ecosystem, and that will lead to destruction of and damage of the biodiversity. ठीक है. Over exploitation, of course, pollution and climate change. ठीक है. These are the threats that the biodiversity faces. Okay. Now sustainable use. Sustainable use means biodiversity is the basic of our existence. ठीक है. Biodiversity is the basic to our existence. अगर biodiversity खत्म हो जाएगी तो we can eat only one crop या only 2 crop. ठीक है. तो for that sustainable use is very important. Food, water and health and sharing of benefits. This is the methodology of sustainably using the what? Biodiversity resources. And the third one is what are the tools and techniques? The first one is under the tools and techniques, incentives and solutions, providing incentives. ठीक है. Providing incentives for biodiversity conservation. इसका example क्या है? For some tribes, ठीक है, they started hunting the hornbill in Nagaland, ठीक है, and Arunachal Pradesh. Later on, they were incentivized through financial and other methods to conserve those very species they used to hunt, and now they are the leaders of the conservation of that particular species of hornbill. ठीक है. तो incentives and solutions. Okay. Laws and regulations like wildlife protection Act 1972, environment protection 1986. Biosafety is a very important feature. Cartagena protocol, ठीक है, under the biosafety means biosafety का मतलब biosafety is a very broad term. ठीक है. It involves genetic engineering, ठीक है, it involves hybrid formation, it involves the transmigration of living resources, living modified organisms. So that is the whole biosafety aspect. ठीक है. Behavior change, persuasion leading to change in behavior of the people. ठीक है. Sustainable production and consumption. That is also, of course, sustainable production and consumption. Now, the three major threats that biodiversity faces are alien species, loss of nutrients, and finance. मतलब these were the proposed action targets, and now they were the proposal for the action as to how we have to proceed for the biodiversity conservation, and these are the targets that have been set for 2030 and 2050. तो पहला target है alien species. This flower is called Lantana camara. This is the alien species that India faces. ठीक है. 50% reduction of rate of introduction of alien species by 2030. ठीक है. 2030 तक जो रेट ऑफ इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ एलियन स्पीसीज है उसको रिड्यूस करना बाय 50%. ओके. द सेकंड वन इज लॉस ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट. लॉस ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट का मतलब जो लैंड यूज चेंज है उसकी वजह से न्यूट्रिएंट्स गेट्स लॉस्ट. ठीक है. वेरी सिंपल एग्जांपल इज मोनोक्रॉपिंग की वजह से बहुत सारे न्यूट्रिएंट जो है वो अर्थ के लॉस हो जाते हैं. इवन इरिगेशन, ओवर इरिगेटेड फ्लड्स की वजह से जो टॉप सॉइल है दैट गेट्स वॉश्ड अवे, and the nitrogen and the phosphorus that has been already fixed by the microbes also gets lost away. So nutrient loss is also major biodiversity threat. ठीक है. The reduce nutrient loss by at least 50% by 2030. Use of pesticides to be reduced by 2/3 of today's use by 2030, and eliminating the dumping of plastic waste, because plastic waste leads to leaching of certain kind of chemicals that leads to the loss of nutrient power of the soil. Okay. Now how are these going to be achieved? उसके लिए फाइनेंसेस, क्योंकि मेजॉरिटी ऑफ दीज रिसोर्सेज या मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द बायोडाइवर्सिटी थ्रेट इज फेस्ड बाय द डेवलपिंग नेशंस. Moreover, the developed nations have capacity, है ना, and they have finances also to counter the change in biodiversity. But due to the poverty and the low scale technologies, you know, and the development of low scale technologies in the developing nations, the, the biodiversity threat is relatively higher in the lower income groups countries. ठीक है, तो what is proposed is increased flow of the finances to the tune of $200 billion by 2030 to the developing countries. ठीक है, for their, अब यहाँ पे again it comes the concept of common but differentiated responsibilities. ठीक है, because biodiversity का exploitation भी ज़्यादा किया है developed countries ने, that's why they are developed. ठीक है, as compared to the developing countries. Now developing countries are in the phase जहाँ पे उनको biodiversity का exploitation करना है so that they may develop themselves. अब while they are in the phase of development, they will of course be putting a strain on, a greater pressure on the resources of the biodiversity. To counter that, what needs to be done is that higher upscaled technology needs to be transferred to the developing countries, and for that the finances to the tune of $200 billion needs to be provided to the developing countries by 2030. That is the goal of this whole convention, the framework that has been adopted for Convention on Biodiversity. Okay, that is all for the global framework. A very important topic that we have at our hand today is new population policy of UP. Population Day, World Population Day is celebrated on 11th of the July. 11th of July. Population Day, World Population Day. Okay, 11th of July को World Population Day celebrate होता है. UP government released a population policy. ठीक है, UP government released population policy on 10th of July, and on 11th of July the Law Commission of the UP government presented a draft bill that seeks to control stabilize the population growth. Now we'll be analyzing as to what is the population growth rate of country, what is the population growth rate of UP. Do we really need a law that stabilizes, that tries to stabilize the population of India? Is the threat, is the assumption that the India's population is exploding, is that well founded or not? Okay, we'll try to understand that. Now Uttar Pradesh Law Commission formulated a proposal for the population control and welfare. It was a bill rewarding the couples to adhere to two-child policy. Okay? UP Law Commission has also said that the policy will be voluntary. It will not be forced upon anyone. Okay? And on 11th of July, this was done on 10th of July. On 11th of July, Chief Minister of the UP released a draft population policy. That is, Law Commission has introduced a draft bill, and Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh has released a population policy. We'll try to understand what it seeks to attain and what are the current population trends. Now total fertility rate of India is 2.2. NHFS 4 2016 के हिसाब से 2.2. Now what is total fertility rate? Total fertility rate is कि the amount of children a woman has throughout her reproductive life. ठीक है, from 15 to 49, how many children can a woman bear? ठीक है, that is called the total fertility rate. In India it is 2.2. मतलब a woman bears on an average 2.2 children. ठीक है, अगर हम बेसिक मैथ्स यूज करें तो इंटू 100 अगर मल्टीप्लाई कर दें या 10 अगर मल्टीप्लाई कर दें तो 22, दैट इज 10 women जो है 10 women can bear 22 children. Okay, 10 women can bear 22 children. Another important point is कि 10 women can not bear 22 children alone. They will be needing men also. So we consider that 10 women plus 10 men, ठीक है, 10 women plus 10 men bear 22 children. Okay. Now why 2.2? This is the total fertility rate of India. Total fertility rate of UP is 2.7. That is 10 women can bear 27 children in one, मतलब 10 women can bear 27 children throughout their lives. ठीक है. Of course then those 10 women will need 10 men also. तो मतलब 10 women and 10 men can bear 27 children in India. मतलब 20 लोग मिलके 27 चिल्ड्रन प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं और ये यूपी में है और इंडिया का रेट है कि 20 लोग मिलके 22 चिल्ड्रन प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं. नाउ वन अदर इंपॉर्टेंट टर्म इज, इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ को समझना बहुत जरूरी है. ठीक है, कि पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ कैसे होती है. यूजुअली माल्थस की थ्योरी क्या है, दैट वी आर नॉट गोइंग इनटू द थ्योरी ऑफ माल्थस एंड ऑल, बट अ बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग नीड्स टू बी डेवलप्ड. 2-3 टर्म्स है. एक तो TFR, टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट. द सेकेंड वन इज रिप्लेसमेंट रेट. ठीक है, रिप्लेसमेंट रेट. व्हाट इज रिप्लेसमेंट रेट? एज आई सेड, द टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट ऑफ UP इज 2.7, India 2.2. And now I say that the standard replacement rate, according to the theory, the standard replacement rate, these are total fertility rates for UP and India. ठीक है. Now the theory says that the standard replacement rate should be 2.1. Now 2.1 means कि every woman can bear 2.1 children. That is 20 women can produce, 10 women, ठीक है, 10 से इसको मल्टीप्लाई कर दे, कैन प्रोड्यूस 21 चिल्ड्रन. ठीक है, या अगर हम इसको और एक्सपेंड करें तो 2.1 इंटू 100 कर लें. ठीक है, तो 210. अगर 100 वेमेन जो है अपने पूरे लाइफ साइकिल में, ऑफ कोर्स दे विल नीड 100 मैन ऑल्सो, तो टोटल कितने होंगे? 200 पीपल. 200 people are producing 210 children. This is the concept of total fertility rate. जब 2.1 हमारा फर्टिलिटी रेट था, TFR था, तो 100 men और 100 women मिलके 210 चिल्ड्रन प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं. दिस इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड द रेट ऑफ रिप्लेसमेंट. रेट ऑफ रिप्लेसमेंट मीन्स कि एक पॉपुलेशन जो है, एक सर्टेन पॉपुलेशन, हाउ मच चिल्ड्रन शुड इट प्रोड्यूस सो दैट इन वन जनरेशन इट रिप्लेसेस इटसेल्फ. ठीक है, एंड दैट इज 2.1 चिल्ड्रन. ठीक है, मतलब एक सर्टेन पॉपुलेशन कितने बच्चे प्रोड्यूस करे कि वो अपने आप को एक जनरेशन बाद रिप्लेस कर दे. ठीक है, अगर, और दैट कम्स टू 2.1 चिल्ड्रन पर पर्सन. ठीक है, पर वुमन. ऑफ कोर्स दैट वुमन विल नीड एटलीस्ट 1 मैन फॉर प्रोड्यूसिंग दैट 2.1 चिल्ड्रन. मतलब एवरी वुमेन इफ बियर्स 2.1 चिल्ड्रन थ्रू आउट हर लाइफ, देन दिस पॉपुलेशन विल एग्जैक्टली रिप्लेस इटसेल्फ आफ्टर 1 जनरेशन. मतलब अगर इसमें 100 लोग थे, ठीक है, और इन 100 लोगों ने, ठीक है, 100 women थी, वी कंसिडर women, और 100 women ने 2.1 चिल्ड्रन प्रोड्यूस किए, तो यहाँ पे हो जाएंगे टोटल पॉपुलेशन कितनी हो जाएगी? 210. ठीक है, अब वी कंसिडर कि यहाँ पे तो 100 ही women थी और 100 men ने मिलके प्रोड्यूस किए 210. लेकिन यहाँ पे तो टोटल 200 हुए, राइट, और यहाँ पे 210. तो हम ये मान सकते हैं कि यहाँ पे एक सर्टेन मोर्टेलिटी रेट भी होगी. मोर्टेलिटी रेट, ठीक है, उसको अकाउंट करने के लिए ये 10 एक्स्ट्रा प्रोड्यूस करता है ये पॉपुलेशन. दिस इज द थ्योरी, दिस इज द थ्योरी ऑफ रिप्लेसमेंट रेट, टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट एंड एवरीथिंग. नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस इज इन कंट्रीज लाइक जापान, ठीक है, वहां पे पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ रेट नेगेटिव है. ओके, टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट बहुत लो है, जिसकी वजह से दिस पॉपुलेशन इज नॉट बीइंग एबल टू प्रोड्यूस द सो मेनी चिल्ड्रन दैट इट रिप्लेसेस इटसेल्फ, जिसकी वजह से पॉपुलेशन डिक्लाइन होना स्टार्ट हो गया है. ओके, देयर इज अ पॉपुलेशन डिक्लाइन इन कंट्रीज लाइक जापान. इन इंडिया ऑल्सो, फॉर एग्जाम्पल केरला, it has 1.7. The total fertility rate of Kerala is 1.7. Means one woman can bear only 1.7 children. Now, अगर हम ये वाली मैथमेटिक्स दोबारा यूज करें तो 100 women can bear 170 children. ठीक है, अब 100 women can bear 170 children. Of course, 100 women will need 100 men. तो 200 people, basically 200 people are generating only 170 people now. अगर उसमें भी मोर्टेलिटी रेट अगर हम 10 का कंसिडर कर लें कि 170 में से 10 लोग मर जाते हैं बिफोर रीचिंग देयर मैच्योर एज, तो 160 बचे. तो यहाँ पे 200 पीपल थे, नाउ दे आर 160. 200 थे 160. देयर इज अ फॉल इन द पॉपुलेशन. तो व्हेन द पॉपुलेशन, द रेट ऑफ द टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट डिक्लाइंस बिलो 2.1, दैट इज कॉल्ड the decline in the population. That leads to the decline in population. Okay, and when it is greater than 2.1, it leads to an increase in population. Understood? This is the whole phenomena, is the whole concept of population, fertility rate, total fertility rate, replacement rate and everything. Now back to the topic. India's current TFR is close to replacement rate. India का current total fertility rate कितना है? 2.2, ठीक है, and 2.1 होता है. टोटल रिप्लेसमेंट रेट कितना होता है? 2.1. तो इट इज वेरी क्लोज टू 2.2. तो पीपल हु आर सेइंग दैट इंडियाज पॉपुलेशन इज एक्सप्लोडिंग, दैट व्यू इज नॉट वेरी स्ट्रांगली हेल्ड. व्हाई? बिकॉज इंडिया का जो फर्टिलिटी रेट है दैट इज वेरी क्लोज टू 2.1, जो रिप्लेसमेंट रेट के बराबर है. ओके, इन 1993 ऑफ कोर्स, 1993 it was 3.7. अब 3.7 से we have reduced to 2.2 and that is a marginal gain. 1.5 children का loss हुआ है and that is a marginal gain in controlling the population. Okay, तो that means कि इंडिया का population is already almost stabilizing. अब population किसी भी country का या किसी भी species का population एक स्पेसिफिक कर्व के अकॉर्डिंग ही वेरी करता है, ठीक है, एंड दैट कर्व इज, ठीक है, द फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल पॉपुलेशन विल राइज, स्टार्ट राइजिंग, ठीक है, पॉपुलेशन विल स्टार्ट राइजिंग विद द इंप्रूविंग इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट्स एंड एट अ पॉइंट इट विल पीक, ठीक है. इसके बियॉन्ड रिसोर्सेज बिकम अनसस्टेनेबल, पॉपुलेशन बिकम्स अनसस्टेनेबल विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द रिसोर्सेज, ठीक है. अब रिसोर्स कंस्ट्रेंट्स लाइक इकोनॉमी, है ना, फूड, जॉब्स, हर चीज के रिस्पेक्ट में ये पॉपुलेशन पीक कर जाती है एंड देन इट स्टार्ट्स डिक्लाइनिंग एंड आफ्टर पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम इट बिकम्स स्टेबल, ठीक है. तो इंडिया इज ऑन दिस राइजिंग पीक, ठीक है, इंडिया इज ऑन दिस राइजिंग पीक. दैट मीन्स आवर पॉपुलेशन इज स्टिल इंक्रीजिंग, ठीक है, एंड वी आर एक्सपेक्टिंग दैट बाई 2060 आवर पॉपुलेशन विल पीक. After that, our population will start declining, ठीक है, and then it will stabilize. But there is a problem. What problem is कि currently the 60% of our population is between age 15 to 59. That is working age population. The 60% of our population is between 15 to 59 years, due to which we have a demographic opportunity. ओके, डेमोग्राफिक अपॉर्चुनिटी, ठीक है. Demographic opportunity in the sense that we have our majority of the population that can work, ठीक है. अब यहाँ पे एक important term और आती है, dependency ratio, ठीक है, dependency ratio, ठीक है, Dependency ratio. What is dependency ratio? Dependency ratio means how many people are dependent on the working age population. तो हम we can see कि only 40% of people are not in the 50 to 59 bracket. यानी only 40% of the people are under the dependency ratio. मतलब 60, if there are 100 people, 60 people can work and 40 people can eat. That is of course sustainable. Okay. मतलब कि 40% लोग या तो 60 से ज़्यादा हैं, they cannot work, या तो 15 से कम है, of course they cannot work. तो वर्किंग एज पॉपुलेशन में, एंड दिस इज द कॉल्ड डेमोग्राफिक अपॉर्चुनिटी. डेमोग्राफिक अपॉर्चुनिटी मतलब आवर पॉपुलेशन इज डेमोग्राफिकली very fertile in the sense that we can exploit our population if our population is having right kind of resources in the form of human capital. ठीक है. Now there was a question in prelims, what is human capital? ठीक है. तो human capital is very simple. Human capital is intangible asset. You cannot touch it. Intangible asset means you cannot touch it, you cannot feel it, मतलब you cannot have it in your hand. Okay, you cannot touch it, you cannot push it. Like intellectual capacity. Someone's intellectual capacity is an intangible asset to that person, and that is a part of his human capital. The knowledge you have gained in your life, that is your human capital. ठीक है. The kind of degrees that you have, that is your human capital. The kind of knowledge you earned, that is human capital. The skill you have is human capital. So if we imparted good human capital to our working age population, it will be working today, everyone will be working, employment rate low होती, ठीक है, employment rate low होती और wealth generation high होता, wealth generation high होता. But now we can see that by 2060 we will be peaking, and after that point our population will decline. Not only decline, the majority of the population will shift to dependency age, the age of dependency. Why? Because the people आज 15 से 59 के बीच में है, 40 years later they will be 65 plus. Okay, understood? And that will lead to what? A demographic disaster, a demographic loss. Okay, so we have very small amount of, we are in 2020 से we have 40 years of period left to exploit our demographic opportunity. Understood? This is the whole phenomena, how population stabilization works, and what is the prospect of India in that. Now back to the lecture. India's current TFR is close to the replacement rate. मतलब इंडिया का population अभी ऐसा है कि एक generation बाद ये जो हमारी generation, that will replace itself. Okay. Kerala, Punjab, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra already have achieved neonatal mortality rate well below 16 per 1000 live births, way ahead of the set target of 2025. तो NHP, National Health Policy, ठीक है, National Health Policy 2017, ठीक है, mandates that the neonatal mortality rate should be below 16 deaths per 1000 live births. न्यूनेटल मोर्टेलिटी मतलब जो बच्चे बॉर्न होते हैं और बॉर्न होते ही मर जाते हैं बिकॉज ऑफ द लैक ऑफ फैसिलिटीज, ठीक है, या बहुत सारी वजहों की वजह से, लैक ऑफ केयर एंड ऑल. तो इंडिया हैज अ वेरी हाई इंडिया हैड अ वेरी हाई न्यूनेटल मैटरनल अंडर 5 चाइल्ड मोर्टेलिटी. ये सारे पैरामीटर्स पे इंडिया परफॉर्म वेरी पुअरली. But now of course the score is increasing, but we can see the divergence that within the intra-country divergence we can observe. Kerala, Punjab, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra have achieved way, मतलब National Health Policy 2017 mandated that by 2025 India should achieve a neonatal mortality rate below 16 per 1000 live births. But Kerala, Punjab, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra has already achieved that way below 4 years before of 2025, 4 years before of the set target. ठीक है. तो इस पॉइंट को ऐड करने का लॉजिक ये था कि केरला का जो टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट है, इट इज अपॉन अराउंड 1.7. केरला इज वेरी एजुकेटेड स्टेट, लिटरेसी हाई है, ठीक है, सोशल कस्टम्स आर नॉट वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग, दैट इज मतलब कॉन्जर्वेटिज्म की कमी है, कॉन्जर्वेटिव सोसाइटी नहीं है ज़्यादा वहाँ पे. दैट हैज़ लेड टू एन इंक्रीज that has led to not only a fall in one, इनका टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट केरला का है 1.7, यूपी का है 2.7, बिहार का है 3.4. So we can observe that the divergence is a function of educational and literary outcomes. Okay, the divergence in the population growth is a function of what? Literary and such outcomes. ठीक है. Okay, current population trends. 2010 में it was believed that India will overtake China by 2022. At that time, India's total fertility rate was 2.68. In 2016, when National Health Survey, NHFS, National Family Health Survey 4 was conducted, only 4 states out of 36 had total fertility rate more than 2.68. Within like 6 years, India's majority of the states, ठीक है, except for Bihar, UP, Rajasthan and one Odisha, I guess, ठीक है, तो इन स्टेट्स के अलावा मोस्ट ऑफ द यूपी, बिहार, मेघालय, नागालैंड, इन स्टेट्स के अलावा सारे स्टेट्स का जो टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट है दैट हैज फॉलन बिलो 2.68. ठीक है. द अदर इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज द डेडलाइन वाज रिवाइज्ड अपवर्ड टू 2024. ठीक है. नाउ टीएफआर, अभी इंडिया का टीएफआर इज 2.2. ठीक है, दैट इज क्लोज टू द रिप्लेसमेंट रेट 2.1 एंड the deadline that India will take over China was revised upwards by 2024. मतलब the population of India is not increasing at a very fast pace. Now it is going to stabilize. ठीक है. Now what are the aims of the policy? ये तो हमारा population का trend हुआ, population कैसे इंडिया में function कर रहा है. Now what are the aims of the policy that the UP government has proposed? Bring down the total fertility rate to 2.1 by 2026. अभी कितना है? 2.7 टोटल फर्टिलिटी रेट यूपी का है, उसको 2.1 पे ले आना है 2026 तक और 1.7 जो कि केरला का है 2030 तक. ब्रिंगिंग मॉडर्न कंट्रासेप्शन रेट फ्रॉम 31.7 टू 45% बाय 2026 एंड 52% बाय 2030, ये टारगेट्स हैं. एंड प्रमोट 2 चाइल्ड पॉलिसी. Proposal of the policy are the policy will be voluntary and people having more than 2 children will be debarred from. Okay, this is a carrot and stick policy. ठीक है, carrot and stick policy. Carrot कैसे? Rewarding, ठीक है, rewarding people with lesser number of children, या 1 child या 2 child के people को reward करना, and people having more than 2 children should be punished. That is called carrot and stick policy. Carrot for the followers and stick for the people who are erring on the policy. The first one is they will be barred from welfare schemes. The limit of the ration card will be set to 4 people. You can take ration for only 4 people from one ration card. Barred from contesting elections. Rajasthan and Haryana has already done that. Supreme Court also upheld that decision of barring people from contesting elections on the ground of having more than 2 children. ठीक है. Ineligible to apply for government jobs under the state government. State government के अंदर कोई भी job होगी तो उसमें apply नहीं कर सकते. And barred from promotions as well. तो ये major issues हैं, major topics हैं, इस major proposals हैं इस bill के. Okay. But what is the national population policy of 2000? India is still following the national population policy of 2000 that was announced in 2000. तो इसमें 3 important चीजें हैं. The first one is कि इस policy का aim क्या था, ठीक है, उसके लिए हम कहते हैं demographic goals क्या थे. The second one is the policy should be women centric and the third one is decentralized planning and implementation. ये 3 pillars हैं national policy, population policy 2000 के. ठीक है. So the national population policy 2000 clearly speaks that it will not coerce people, ठीक है, to get into family planning, but a family planning should be done from bottom level to upward. ठीक है. Basically, women should be provided with the authority and agency to make choices about the kind of contraception they want, the kind of the number of children they want to have. Okay, so reproductive rights of women should be granted so that Moreover, we have observed that educated women choose to have lesser number of children. Yeah, prosperous families choose to have lesser number of children. Another important point of why India's population bursted so highly was uh, the desire for a male child. कई बार तो लोगों के 3-3, 4-4 बच्चे हो जाते हैं for a desire of a male child. ठीक है, तो in that sense they have gone on increasing the population of the country. ठीक है, तो demographic goals क्या थे? To achieve the population stabilization by 2010, although it was not achieved, it was announced in 2000 कि in the next decade we will be achieving population stabilization by bringing the total fertility rate to the replacement level. ठीक है, reduce the child mortality rate to below 30%. Now, why are we talking about controlling the population at the same time reducing the child mortality rate? When people believe that the under 5 mortality rate of the children, ठीक है, under 5 mortality rate means कि बच्चे का 5 साल तक सर्वाइव करने का चांस, ठीक है, दैट इज कॉल्ड अंडर 5 मोर्टेलिटी रेट. अगर 100 में से 70 बच्चे सर्वाइव कर रहे हैं 5 ईयर्स तक, ठीक है, इफ 100 चिल्ड्रन वन बॉर्न एंड दे डिड नॉट डाई इन द इन्फेंट एज, ठीक है, यानी फर्स्ट 3 मंथ्स में अगर नहीं मरते हैं तो दैट इज कॉल्ड इन्फेंट एज. उसके बाद 5 ईयर्स तक जो बच्चे अलाइव रहते हैं उनको कहते हैं अंडर 5 चिल्ड्रन. ठीक है, अगर फर्स्ट 3 मंथ्स या बर्थ से लेके 5 ईयर्स तक 100 में से 70 बच्चे सर्वाइव कर रहे हैं तो अंडर 5 मोर्टेलिटी रेट कितना है? 30%. दैट इज कॉल्ड अंडर 5 मोर्टेलिटी रेट. इफ पीपल हैव अ स्ट्रॉन्ग बिलीफ कि हमारे बच्चे का जो सर्वाइवल रेट है वो लो है, तो व्हाट दे विल डू इज दे विल प्रोड्यूस मोर नंबर ऑफ चिल्ड्रन. ओके, दैट इज व्हाई इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू कंट्रोल द व्हाट चाइल्ड मोर्टेलिटी रेट. If people are assured that if they produce 2 children and 2 will survive, then they will not be going from the third one. Okay, but if they are not sure, ठीक है, if there is uncertainty कि maybe we produce 2 children and one of them dies, या we produce 1 children and he dies, तो इस condition में they will produce 3 to 4 children. ठीक है, considering the loss that might occur due to the death of 2-3 children. ठीक है, that is how it functions. तो reducing the maternal child mortality rate to below 30 per 1000 lives, ठीक है, below 3%, and reduce maternal mortality rate below 100 per 100,000 mothers. ठीक है. The second one is women centric. As I said, population policy focuses on women's right to choose not only the method of contraception but also the kind of family, the size of the family. Okay, empowering women through health and nutrition. Okay, when women are healthy and they have a better nutrition, ठीक है, तो child mortality also declines. ठीक है, and it also pushes women into education, and when women gets educated they choose to have lesser number of children. Okay, now decentralized in planning and implementation, that the policy aimed at thinking, planning and acting locally and encouraging nationally, proceeding towards a national goal of stabilization of population by thinking, acting and implementing at the local level. Okay, so that was the national policy, population policy 2000. But none of the population policy has talked about coercive measures of carrot and stick policy for the people who choose not to follow the population policy. Okay, that was all about the national population policy. We covered national population policy, the population bill of UP, the policy that has been proposed by UP, what is total fertility rate, what is infant mortality rate, what is child mortality rate under 5, what is maternal mortality rate, what is replacement rate, and how total fertility rate and replacement rate are related. If you have any queries, kindly ask them in the comment section. Now, a major decision has been taken by the Madras High Court that NGT Delhi bench is not the principal bench. Now, what is principal bench and subsidiary benches? Principal bench is like there is a principal bench of Allahabad High Court in Allahabad. ठीक है, उसका एक बेंच अलग है लखनऊ में, ठीक है। तो अब ये जो लखनऊ वाली बेंच है और जो इलाहाबाद वाली बेंच है, क्या किसी लखनऊ बेंच के जजमेंट को इलाहाबाद में जाके चैलेंज किया जा सकता है? नो, बिकॉज बोथ आर हैविंग सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ या सेम जुडिशियल पावर्स, ठीक है। बिकॉज ऑफ द जियोग्राफिकल स्प्रेड, इलाहाबाद हाई कोर्ट का एक बेंच ओपन किया गया या एक ब्रांच ओपन किया गया लखनऊ में। तो सिमिलरली एनजीटी, नेशनल ग्रीन ट्रिब्यूनल, was formed in 2010 through the NGT Act 2010. तो NGT is what? A statutory body. It is not a constitutional body or executive body. तो NGT के 5 डिविजन्स हैं, ठीक है। NGT के 5 डिविजन्स हैं। द फर्स्ट वन इज सेंट्रल, ठीक है, जिसका हेडक्वार्टर भोपाल में है। सेकंड वन इज नॉर्थ, दिल्ली, ठीक है। ईस्ट कैलकाटा, ठीक है। साउथ चेन्नई एंड वेस्ट पुणे, ठीक है। तो ये एनजीटी की 5 बेंचेस हैं अंडर द एनजीटी एक्ट 2010, and there is nowhere a mention of principal bench or subsidiary benches under the original act. That means all these benches had similar power या same power with respect to their territorial jurisdictions. Okay, मतलब to counter the logistical difficulties कि अगर चेन्नई में कोई केस होता है environment related तो people will have to come to Delhi like Supreme Court, ठीक है, कि Supreme Court is only in Delhi। तो अगर साउथ में भी, केरला में भी कोई केस होता है तो पीपल विल हैव टू कम टू दिल्ली टू फाइट दैट केस इन सुप्रीम कोर्ट। टू रिड्यूस दैट, टू रिमूव दैट डिसेबिलिटी, व्हाट एनजीटी एक्ट डिड वाज इट एस्टैब्लिश्ड 5 एनजीटी बेंचेस, ठीक है, एंड 5 ऑफ देम हैड इक्वल पावर्स, ठीक है। अगर सेंट्रल जो कि दिल्ली में है एनजीटी, वो कोई ऑर्डर पास करती है, ठीक है, तो इट विल हैव सेम पावर विद द सेंट्रल वाली जो है वो भोपाल में है एनजीटी, तो इट विल हैव सेम अथॉरिटी एज एनी ऑर्डर पास्ड बाय द नॉर्दर्न या जो दिल्ली के बेस्ड ग्रीन ट्रिब्यूनल है उसके, मतलब ऑल ऑफ देम हैड सेम अमाउंट ऑफ पावर। बट व्हाट हैपेंड वाज इन 2017, ठीक है, इन 2017 central government issued a notification and said that the Delhi branch of NGT shall be what? The principal branch. Principal branch means कि all other branches will be subsidiary to the principal branch of the Delhi NGT, ठीक है। Now what has happened is Madras High Court has stayed the transfer of a case from Chennai NGT to Delhi NGT and struck down the 2017 notification issued by the central government that Delhi is a principal branch and said that all the NGTs have equal power, ठीक है, all the NGTs have equal power, that this is what Madras High Court has said, ठीक है। Madras High Court has stayed the transfer of a case from South Zone from Chennai to Delhi bench citing NGT Act 2010, ये मैंने आपको बता दिया। Now what is NGT, ठीक है, NGT is National Green Tribunal, it is a tribunal, ठीक है, it is a tribunal। What is a tribunal and what is a court? Tribunal does not follow necessarily the laws laid down under the judicial procedures, that is why it is tribunal, ठीक है। A tribunal is formed through, this was formed through NGT Act 2010, ठीक है। It seeks to provide speedy and low cost environmental justice, ठीक है। तो one does not need to have lawyer. If you have any issues, you do not need to have a lawyer and you can directly go to the NGT and file your case on your own behalf. Why? Because it does not follow the civil procedure codes as laid down under the CPC Act 1908, ठीक है। It does not follow the civil procedure code. Now what is civil procedure code? Civil procedure code is a method या एक प्रोसीजर या प्रोटोकॉल है that should be followed while following a civil case. वैसे ही CRPC, criminal procedure code, it is a methodology mentioned कि what should be done what should be standard protocol for following a criminal case in a court. ठीक है, तो सिविल प्रोसीजर कोड फॉलो करने के लिए ये NGT obliged नहीं है. It does not has to follow the civil procedure code that has been laid. Neither it has to follow the Evidence Act. ठीक है, तो it follows only the principle of natural justice and sustainable development. ठीक है, तो what principles it follows? It follows the principles of natural justice and sustainable development. Okay, its orders are final and binding and cannot be challenged in any high court, but an appeal can lie into the Supreme Court. ठीक है, its order can be appealed into Supreme Court. Now its order final and binding. Then how does a person from south zone of NGT bench gets reprieve from the Madras High Court? तो ये डाउट बहुत बार अराइज होता है कि किसी ट्रिब्यूनल के जजमेंट को कोई हाई कोर्ट में चैलेंज कर देता है, एंड डिस्पाइट द फैक्ट कि ट्रिब्यूनल्स का जजमेंट कोर्ट्स में चैलेंजेबल नहीं है. बहुत सारी कोर्ट्स का जजमेंट लाइक एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ट्रिब्यूनल का जजमेंट इज नॉट इवन चैलेंजेबल इन सुप्रीम कोर्ट और इन द हाई कोर्ट्स. ठीक है, तो सिमिलरली तो what happens in those cases is people don't usually go through appellate jurisdiction. ठीक है, they do not appeal. appeal का मीनिंग क्या है? to challenge a judgment of a lower court, ठीक है ना, into a higher court. ठीक है, that is called appeal. appeal मतलब अगर आपको डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट से कोई जजमेंट मिल गया and you are not satisfied with that judgment, you can appeal that judgment into the high court. This is called appeal. But in case of tribunals, ठीक है, tribunals like water dispute tribunals, ठीक है, तो water dispute tribunal के जो judgment होते हैं they are final and binding. They cannot be challenged anywhere. So you cannot file an appeal against the tribunal judgment into high court or supreme court. ठीक है, it is final and binding. Still states go to supreme court regularly challenging the decision of the water tribunals. ठीक है, and that is one of the major reasons कि water tribunals का जो judgment है उनके implementation में बहुत सारे years लग जाते हैं. Now अगर हम challenge ही नहीं कर सकते water tribunal के judgment को high court या supreme court में, then how come this कि states constantly challenge it? Basically that happens through a writ petition. ठीक है, writ petition. Someone from the state files a writ petition against the judgment of the tribunal, and Supreme Court is obliged. ठीक है, High Court is not obliged. High Court can refuse to accept a writ petition, ठीक है, under Article 32, but High Court can refuse to admit any writ petition, but Supreme Court is obliged because Supreme Court is the fundamental guarantor of the fundamental rights in India. So people file writ petitions challenging the judgments of the tribunals. ठीक है, तो अब आपको समझ में आ गया कि अगर किसी ट्रिब्यूनल का जजमेंट, मोस्ट ऑफ पीपल हैव दिस डाउट कि सर ट्रिब्यूनल जजमेंट कैन नॉट बी चैलेंज्ड इन सुप्रीम कोर्ट और हाई कोर्ट, देन हाउ कम द स्टेट हैज चैलेंज्ड? एक्चुअली स्टेट हैज नॉट चैलेंज्ड, स्टेट हैज फाइल्ड अ रिट पिटिशन. अगर स्टेट नहीं फाइल करता तो सम इंडिविजुअल हैज फाइल्ड अ रिट पिटिशन ऑन द बिहाफ ऑफ द स्टेट. ठीक है, तो इन रिट पिटिशंस को हियर करने के लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट स्टार्ट्स assessing the judgment of the tribunal. This is what happened in this case. The Southern Zone NGT directed the transfer of the case from Chennai bench to Delhi bench because of the existing notification by the central government that the Delhi bench will be the principal bench. Now now Madras High Court was hearing a writ petition filed by the same person whose petition was being transferred from Chennai bench to Delhi bench, and it has removed that, it has struck down that notification saying that that notification is not constitutional. ठीक है, on the grounds that NGT Act does not include any kind of principal bench, any kind of mention of principal bench. ठीक है, okay. It follows the principle of natural justice. It has power to offer relief. Now it has also power to offer relief or compensation. ठीक है, it can award compensation. ठीक है, यहाँ पे एक important term है. This is how you have to relate to make your study easier. National Human Rights Commission also has a power of civil court. It is not a tribunal, but it has a power of civil court when making inquiries, ठीक है, and enforcing its summons, ठीक है. But National Human Rights Commission cannot award compensation to the person affected. What it can do, it can recommend to the government to award some compensation, and the awarding of the compensation is based on the discretion of the government. But similarly, National Green Tribunal can not only get into the inquiring into the case, but it can also award a compensation, ठीक है, to the person affected, ठीक है. It can also for the damages caused by the environmental degradation. If someone files a plea in the NGT कि air pollution की वजह से I have suffered this damage, तो NGT if believes that yes, that person has suffered damage due to environmental pollution, it can also award compensation to that, ठीक है. Of course that compensation will be paid from the public from the contingency accounts of contingency fund of India, ठीक है. Now what are the constitutional and statutory provisions? First one is fundamental right. Article 21, right to life with dignity includes access to clean air, water and environment. ये constitutional statutory provisions किसके लिए हैं? For the formation of National Green Tribunal, ठीक है. DPSP Article 48A, again, state shall endeavor to protect the environment and safeguard the wildlife and forest, ठीक है. Again, fundamental duty 51AG, it shall be duty of every citizen to protect and improve the natural environment of India, ठीक है. Statutory provisions क्या हैं? NGT Act 2010, EPA 1986, Air Pollution Control Act 1981, Water Pollution Control Act also. तो ये statutory और constitutional provisions हैं जो कि which are the foundations of National Green Tribunal. Okay. Now what is the structure and composition of NGT? It should comprise of three basic kind of people. The first one is chairperson. Chairperson is appointed by central government in consultation with Chief Justice of India. The qualification should be that the chairperson should either be a judge of Supreme Court or has been a judge of Supreme Court, or should be a Chief Justice of High Court or has been a Chief Justice of High Court. Understood? Both working and retired people can function as the chairperson. Now judicial members and expert members. Judicial members are people who have experience in judicial exercise. Expert members are people who have experience in environmental laws, yeah, who have worked in like activists, ठीक है, who have worked in environmental domain. तो okay, तो chairperson will be appointed by the central government with the help of in the consultation with the CJI. Judicial members not less than 10 and not more than 20, ठीक है, पूरी bench में there cannot be less than 10 and not more than 20 members, appointed by central government plus chairperson's consent, ठीक है. Central government will consult chairperson and they will appoint judicial members. Qualification is who has been a high court judge, at least जो कि हाई कोर्ट जज रह चुका हो वही इंसान जुडिशियल मेंबर के तौर पे अपॉइंट हो सकता है एनजीटी में. Similarly, experts not less than 10 and not more than 20. Again, experts and judicial members cannot be less than 10 and cannot be more than 20. Should have experience and qualification in the technological and scientific or practical experience in the matters of conservation of the environment. ये होंगे expert member, ये होंगे judicial member. Judicial member का experience judiciary वाला होगा, expert members का experience environmental aspect वाला होगा, chairperson का experience judicial जो experience होगा वो होगा. This is the structure and the composition of NGT. Okay, some technical error seems to have happened. देख लीजिए इसको क्या हो गया। आगे नहीं बढ़ रहा। इसको क्लोज करके एक बार फिर से स्टार्ट कर दीजिए। ये बंद है ना, कैमरा बंद है ना? हेलो, ऑन है? Okay, there was a minor technical glitch, but still we will continue our very important topic of NGT again. Now we have seen the composition and structure of NGT. Now we will be observing the powers and jurisdiction. ठीक है? तो territorial jurisdiction of course has been mentioned in the NGT Act itself कि northern zone will act for what kind of area? Sorry, eastern zone will act for what kind of area? Southern zone and central zone and western zone. Now, what are the powers and the jurisdiction of the NGT? The first one is any substantial question of law relating to environment. Now, what is substantial question of law? Substantial question of law is that determines the basic of the law. Like fundamental right के बारे में अगर कोई substantial question है ना, that majorly decides about the fundamental right, then the authority lies with the Supreme Court. Okay. Similarly, when there is a substantial question of law relating to environment, the authority lies with the NGT. Has both original and appellate jurisdiction. Now we talked about appellate jurisdiction थोड़ी देर पहले. तो appellate jurisdiction अभी तो हमने जो पढ़ा, that was कि appellate jurisdiction it has both original, ठीक है, original and appellate. ठीक है, ओरिजिनल एंड appellate jurisdiction, इसका मीनिंग क्या हुआ कि ओरिजिनल का मीनिंग इफ देयर इज एनी वायलेशन ऑफ लॉ, ठीक है, रिलेटिंग टू एनवायरमेंट, अ पर्सन कैन डायरेक्टली गो टू एनजीटी. ठीक है, दैट इज कॉल्ड ओरिजिनल jurisdiction. Original jurisdiction means the right of या the power of hearing cases in the first instance. ठीक है, right of hearing the cases in the first instance is called original jurisdiction. Similarly, appellate jurisdiction means when some lower court has passed some order, ठीक है ना, that relates to environment, and then you appeal. Okay, you appeal, yeah, you challenge that order in another court, that is called appellate jurisdiction. Here lower court and this one is tribunal. Okay, this is called appellate jurisdiction. तो NGT का both original and appellate jurisdiction दोनों है. ठीक है, ठीक है. Not bound by the civil procedure code, we already talked about it. Appeal against the decision lies in the Supreme Court within 90 days. If one wants to challenge the judgment of NGT, they can appeal in a Supreme Court and not in High Court. But in this case, that person filed a writ petition in the High Court of Madras. Now, it can provide for relief and compensation that we already studied. Restitution of property damaged. Restitution of property damaged means, for example, if a government is trying to relocate people from some core area or buffer area of some national park, okay, in that case if people filed a case in NGT, okay, and NGT can then grant, if the NGT sees the merits of the case and NGT favors people, then it can grant the restitution of the property damaged. Restitution means ki again the government will have to re-erect the property, give back the property to the people, okay. And restitution of environment. Restitution of environment matlab conservation of environment, basically it can also provide for these things. Penalty for non-compliance is up to fine up to rupees 10 crore and imprisonment up to 3 years and both. Okay. A very important thing is कि which are the acts covered under the NGT Act 2010. The first one is Water Preservation Control Act 1974, 1977, Forest Conservation Act 1980, Air Prevention Control of Pollution Act 1981, EPA 1986, Public Liability Insurance Act. Now why is Public Liability Insurance Act covered? This is the act through which NGT awards compensation. Okay. The Biological Diversity Act 2002, BD Act, the act we studied very recently. And one important thing is the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 and Forest Right Act 2006 have been kept out of the purview. तो ये बहुत important clause है. Forest Right Act 2006. Forest Right Act has been enacted to grant the right of residence to people who have been living in the forest traditional forest dwellers को right of residence forests में मिलने के लिए. ठीक है. We have discussed FRA 2006 at length in one of our video lectures. You can go through the channel list and you can see that. So, but these two acts which are very important have been kept out of it. Okay? So that limits the authority of tribunal. If Forest Right Act 2006 was also kept within the tribunal, then it would have been much better because the tribunal is mandated to dispense of cases within 6 months. Okay? That would have been a very expeditious hearing of the cases that relate to the Forest Right Act 2006. Okay? So this is a very important note that Wildlife Protection Act 1972 and FRA 2006 have been not covered under the NGT. Matlab NGT cannot adjudicate on any matter related to Wildlife Protection Act 1972 and Forest Rights Act 2006. That is all for the NGT, and we understood that NGT, there is no subsidiary bench of NGT. All the benches, whether south, central, northern, western or eastern, have equal powers with respect to jurisdiction or territorial jurisdiction, and there is no principal bench, and Madras High Court has struck down the notification of 2017 that was issued by the government in favor of NGT. Okay. Now the last topic that we have today is RBI's Retail Direct Scheme. RBI has in February 2021, RBI proposed allowing the individual users, retail users, to invest into the government scheme, government securities. Okay. Now this scheme has been announced. Now the various nuances of the scheme has been announced, but but the major part of the scheme, that what kind of bonds will be covered and such, what is the modalities of the scheme, how to invest, that will be released later. Now till now, government security market is dominated by institutional investors. Now what are institutional investors? ठीक है, रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स वो लोग होते हैं जो कि लाइक मैं और आप, हम रिटेल इन्वेस्टर हैं. रिटेल मतलब जिनका जो कंजम्पशन वॉल्यूम है वो बहुत छोटा है. Institutional investors are those people who have large purses with them and they can buy a large lot of government security. तो अब institutional investor कौन कौन से हो गए? सबसे पहले pension funds, ठीक है, पेंशन फंड्स, ठीक है, सेकंड इज कॉर्पोरेट्स, थर्ड वन आर बैंक्स, ठीक है, फोर्थ वन आर pension fund, insurance companies, because these people are having large amount of cash with them, ठीक है, large amount of cash with them. So what they can do, they can invest that cash that is lying idle with them into the government securities, and what they can do is they can earn some basic interest on that, ठीक है. Now what are T-bills? तो गवर्नमेंट हैज अनाउंस्ड कि अब रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स बॉन्ड्स और टी बिल्स में इन्वेस्ट कर पाएंगे. तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज अ टी बिल. टी बिल्स आर गवर्नमेंट लोन इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स. हाउ, गवर्नमेंट को अगर लोन चाहिए, ठीक है, तो वो आपको एक टी बिल पब्लिश करके दे देगा. व्हाट इज टी बिल? टी बिल इज ट्रेजरी बिल. इट इज पब्लिश्ड अगेंस्ट द सिक्योरिटी ऑफ द ट्रेजरी ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट. ओके, तो टी बिल एक ऐसा पेपर होगा, ठीक है, जिसपे लिखा होगा ₹100 and it will be sold to you at ₹90 फॉर एग्जाम्पल. ठीक है, एक एग्जाम्पल के तौर पे हमने मान लिया कि अगर ये फेस वैल्यू इसका ₹90 है, 100 है, एंड आपने इसको परचेज किया ₹90 में, और आफ्टर 3 months फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ठीक है, 3 months यू कैन गो टू द गवर्नमेंट एंड आस्क दैट भैया अपना टी बिल ले लो और हमारे पैसे दे दो. ठीक है, तो व्हाट विल हैपन, government will take back its T-bill and give you ₹100 instead of 90. So you earned a benefit of ₹10. तो there is no interest. ठीक है, इंटरेस्ट पोर्शन नहीं है, बट एक डिस्काउंटेड वैल्यू पे सेल की वजह से, डिस्काउंटेड सेल, ठीक है, डिस्काउंटेड वैल्यू, because it was sold at discounted value of ₹90, when you sell it again back to government you will earn ₹10. This is called discounted T-bill. All T-bills are discounted. There is no interest rate on T-bills. The second important thing is they have maturity period of 3 months, 6 months and 1 year. इसके beyond जो भी loan borrowing instruments हैं that are called bonds. ठीक है, they are major short term obligations of the government. Zero coupon securities and pay no interest. ठीक है, there is no coupon. अब कूपन क्या होता है? कूपन अंडरस्टैंड करने के लिए सिंपल है कि अगर आपने ₹100 का बॉन्ड खरीदा, ठीक है, और इसमें कूपन लगे हुए हैं 4-5, ठीक है, हर कूपन पे 10-10-10 लिखा हुआ है, और ये लिखा हुआ है कि आफ्टर एवरी 6 months यू विल ब्रिंग दिस कूपन. तो आपने ₹100 का बॉन्ड तो खरीद लिया, आपके पास अपना बॉन्ड रख लिया. अब ये कूपन आप फाड़ के लेके गए बैंक के पास या गवर्नमेंट के पास, और जैसे ही आपने ये दिया आपको ₹10 मिल गए. फिर 6 months बाद ये ₹10 भी मिल गए, फिर 6 months बाद ₹10 भी मिल गए, फिर 6 months बाद ₹10 मिल गए. मतलब 2 year के पीरियड में आपने ₹40 अर्न कर लिए. एंड विद द एंड ऑफ द पीरियड ऑफ 2 year, ये 2 year का बॉन्ड था फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ठीक है, जब आप इसको दोगे गवर्नमेंट को वापस, तो अगेन आपको ₹100 और मिल जाएंगे जो आपने इनिशियली इन्वेस्ट किया था. ठीक है, दिस इज कॉल्ड what? This is called coupon bond. But T-bills are not coupon bond, they are zero coupon bond and pay no interest. How earning from coupon bond comes is, how earning from T-bill comes, because they are sold at a discounted price. ठीक है, now what are bonds? Bonds are dated government securities, ठीक है, and इनकी maturity period 1 year से 40 year तक हो सकता है. ओके, कई सारे बॉन्ड्स हैं. फिक्स रेट बॉन्ड्स, फिक्स रेट बॉन्ड में जहाँ पे इंटरेस्ट रेट फिक्स है. फ्लोटिंग रेट बॉन्ड्स, वहाँ पे यील्ड जो है वेरी करती है डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द काइंड ऑफ अग्रीमेंट. आफ्टर एवरी 6 months यूजुअली आरबीआई अनाउंसेस या गवर्नमेंट अनाउंसेस द इंटरेस्ट रेट ऑन दीज फ्लोटिंग रेट बॉन्ड्स. इन्फ्लेशन इंडेक्स्ड बॉन्ड्स, नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस इज, व्हाट इज इन्फ्लेशन इंडेक्स्ड? अगर आप कोई बॉन्ड परचेज करते हो और उस पर आपको इंटरेस्ट रेट मिल रहा है 10% का, ठीक है, लेकिन अगर इन्फ्लेशन रेट 4% है, तो आपकी इफेक्टिव अर्निंग हो गई 10 - 4 = 6%. ठीक है, तो आपको although the bond promised an earning of 10%, but you are only earning 6%. Why? Because inflation is eroding your earning. तो इससे बचने के लिए गवर्नमेंट क्या करती है, इन्फ्लेशन इंडेक्स्ड बॉन्ड निकालती है कि इन एनी केस योर प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट एंड ऑफ कोर्स योर इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट विल बी not subject to the inflation charge and you will be getting अगर 10% इन्फ्लेशन है और 4% 10% इंटरेस्ट रेट है और 4% आपको इन्फ्लेशन रेट है, तो इसको एडजस्ट करके आपको पैसे मिलेंगे जो कि इन्फ्लेशन के लिए एडजस्टमेंट होगी, एंड गवर्नमेंट विल बियर दैट कॉस्ट. And the last one is sovereign gold bond. Sovereign gold bond is a bond that is issued in the name against gold. Basically, जिस तरीके से गोल्ड का प्राइस फ्लक्चुएट करता है, सिमिलरली सॉवरेन गोल्ड बॉन्ड का भी प्राइस उसी रेट पे फ्लक्चुएट करता है. इंस्टेड ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग इनटू मटेरियल गोल्ड या सॉलिड गोल्ड, गवर्नमेंट वांट्स पीपल टू इन्वेस्ट इनटू सॉवरेन गोल्ड बॉन्ड्स. ठीक है. Why are GSEC market not retail friendly? सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट ये है कि GSECs are sold in lots of ₹5 crore each. तो रिटेल इन्वेस्टर के पास इतने लिक्विडिटी नहीं होती, इतने पैसे नहीं होते, and that is why they do not borrow these government securities. Instead, they go for corporate bonds. The second important point is that the government securities have a very low interest rate as compared to the corporate bonds. Why? Because government securities have a very low rate of default. They are called also gilt-edged bonds. Gilt-edged bond मतलब कि these bonds are having gilt edge, मतलब they are very less prone to any kind of default risk. ठीक है. so that is why अब default risk कम है तो interest rate भी of course कम होगी. Moreover, government securities have longer maturity periods, क्योंकि जो bonds होते हैं वो 10 year, 20 year, 30 year के लिए होते हैं, और no one wants their money to get locked in into that. What is the proposal? Proposal simple है कि RBI will open an RDG account, RDG, ठीक है, retail, ठीक है, retail account where a retail investor can use UPI transaction or online transaction to purchase government securities into their account. Okay, the further modalities will be explained by the government. So that is all for the today. We will be taking some other important topics in the next lecture. If you have any doubts regarding any of these issues, you can ask in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to take them. Okay, that is all for today.